Dragi prieteni, bine v-am regăsit. Dacă credeați că Federația Rusă și propaganda sa poate ataca hibrid doar țările din spațiul ex-sovietic sau ex-comunist, s-ar putea să vă înșelați. Astăzi vom merge într-o țară din inima Europei, din inima Uniunii Europene, din o țară membră NATO. Este vorba despre Germania și discutăm cu Mandi Granskiezap, jurnalist și analist politic, cofondator al proiectului pilot Recunoaște propaganda rusă. Mandi, thank you very much for this opportunity and for accepting our interview.
Hello.
So, Mandi, we will speak today about hybrid aggression of Russian Federation against Germany and about propaganda. And my first question is, how does Russian propaganda operated in Germany? Because you are a journalist and you have studied this phenomenon.
Yes. Russian propaganda, of course, has some instruments which work everywhere the same, like having some agencies controlled by the Kremlin to put messages, for example, on social media. But of course, we see the official statements from political figures, which are also often misleading and Russian propaganda. And we have also the Russian propaganda we see, which comes from, for example, political talk shows, and which also, kind of come into our discourse. But of course, there are some special points about Germany. As we know from internal documents which were leaked earlier, Germany is a preferred target for Russian propaganda. It is seen as a special target in the Kremlin to influence the public and the German public. And one goal is, of course, to decrease the support, for example, for Ukraine. And for this point, or for this purpose, they use special messages which are created for the German public. For example, they are trying to create fear, or the future fear of atomic bombs or some kind of atomic war, because this is a fear which is in Germany, for example, very spreaded.
So what are the most frequently narratives using Russian propaganda in Germany special?
Yes, firstly, there are some narratives you can find also everywhere else, but here they are, of course, also very, on fertile ground, let's say it like this. For example, that the lie that in Kiev is ruled by fascists. For example, that Russia might be entangled by the West, or that Kiev is some Western or US puppet or something like this. And something special, I would say, is again, for example, discrediting German political figures, but also other European figures or representatives with regard to negotiations of the ceasefire, for example. There was this incident in May, for example, when Chancellor Merz was traveling with other representatives from Europe to Kiev to meet Zelensky in supporting Ukraine. And this was before negotiations should start in Istanbul. And Russian propaganda then spreaded the lie that these political representatives were doing their drive to Kiev by train, taking some drugs. And here it really spread it very wide. For example, at schools, pupils were talking about it, and they were really wondering if Chancellor Merz now is on drugs or something. And it went so far that even political statements were, tried to clear it up and to make clear that there were no drugs at all. And the goal of course, the Russian propaganda tries to discreditate them so that people here maybe lose their trust in these figures to find solutions in Ukraine.
But what about the narratives about immigrants? Because I remember the 2016-2017 big scandal with this girl, Russian girl, Lisa, how it was named. how it's now the situation with the immigrants' narratives.
Yes, that is a very important point you are tipping here. Germany got a really a key role actually in Europe trying to resolve the crisis with migrants. In 2015, many thousand migrants came especially to Germany, and since then actually it goes on. And it's such a hot political field that Russian propaganda also tried here to make some points. For example, the case you told now, it was in 2016 when a girl claimed that that there were an incident with migrants, and in the end it came out that it was a lie towards her parents. But the thing is that Russian propaganda then already had taken the subject and put it in his terms and tried to instrumentalize it on political in his political purposes. And this happens quite a lot, and not only in, I would say, this high level propaganda, but also in little things. For example, creating films where, for example, migrants are claimed to be such a huge problem for us that we will, for example, lose our world as we know it, something like this. So they try to divide the German society. They try to pour oil into the fire of problems and tensions we already have. And the goal is just to make sure that, for example, some people think Russia is some world or some country where we could find help, for example, and for getting Russia is some lifeguard for us, and not only in questions of migrants but also in questions of negotiations with Ukraine. So people start to think that Russia makes it all better than us, and this is a way for Russian propaganda to try to get people convinced that Russia here is a good guy, let's say like this.
But from the political point, intern political point of view of Germany, who benefit after the Russian aggression and Russian propaganda?
Who benefits in which way?
In Germany, in political area of Germany in special.
You mean who? You mean he? Okay, maybe, yeah. That's a good question. Well, there are, of course, some, let's say, political parties who try to use Russian propaganda, or to use the sentiments which are existing already in German society. For example, some right-wing parties use that people are, that actually for many people Russia became some kind of a surface of projection actually for their own dissatisfaction, For example, when they have bad jobs, or when they are dissatisfied with the political situation in general, or then they don't like US, then they have problems actually with the USA, and they have these anti-American sentiments, and those feelings which are circling here. This is something which right-wing parties really can use for their purposes, and Russian propaganda influences this and makes it easier for those parties to make some points, to get voters to mobilize voting for them. And so it's all mixed up actually. It's a melting pot, and there are some benefits, of course, for these parties. And this is something which also should concern us.
So, Mandy, how can artificial intelligence can help to Russian propaganda and to Russian aggression against the Europe in general and in Germany? How can help them?
Artificial intelligence. I'm not sure if it can really help us, because I think we have to understand two things, and I can imagine that maybe in your country it is actually similar challenges. The first thing is that Russian propaganda is often tangled with political action. Officials say the one, but they are doing the other. Yeah, the action actually is masked as something different, and all the Russian propaganda which is spreaded then in social media or somewhere else, it's just helping to make the info fog around this action, and that everybody is talking and talking and talking, but actually Russia anyway does what it wants to do, and it has his demands, for example, in terms of the war against Ukraine. And this makes it really, really hard, because when these things are tangled, how can artificial intelligence really help? It's not a question about like having some social media accounts and putting it in some artificial intelligence and then to make some decisions. This is wrong and this is right and this is lie and this is fact. That's not the way it doesn't work. It's not the way it will work, because we have it in official statements, we have it in everywhere actually when we talk about Russia. So I think one way to counter it is really, it's a hard way actually, it's to improve knowledge. To improve knowledge about history concerning Middle and Eastern Europe, concerning history of Ukraine, but also, for example, history about Moldova, because in Germany, for example, history of all these countries is not really a common knowledge. It's not taught in schools, and we have to go this way to understand actually what is the history of these countries and what is Russian propaganda today is doing about this, to try to use it for their purposes. And yeah, that's the way I think.
Why, when we speak about propaganda, about hybrid aggression, a big part of people in the Europe, in the Germany, in Moldova, is thinking only about Russia and only about Kremlin?
I'm not sure if they only think about Russia and Kremlin, because if we see what other actors and what other crises and wars are going on in the world, it's, in my view, really common opinion that there are several challenges in terms of propaganda. When we see Israel and Hamas, when we see other conflicts or China or something else, maybe it's just very present at the time, I would say. And that is just connected with the point that the war against Ukraine is a war which is in our neighborhood and which is really a war concerning everybody. For example, in Germany, it's a new experience actually. Earlier wars for German people in their feeling, and also for other European countries within the European Union, which are more in the West, like France or Spain or something else. The feeling that there is war is really, really far away. They just experienced it now in a new way. And I would even say that this war against Ukraine is not even concerning every other country in Europe. That the most actually it concerns countries like Germany, because they are really, really, really close. But for example, Spain, in my view, doesn't feel it that close. And the closer a war and the closer an actor, I think that is the point why we are thinking of this propaganda as a huge problem, because it's so close.
So what role plays the local political elites, and especially in Germany and in the European Union, to help to promote the propaganda and the propaganda anti-European Union?
I would even say it is a wider problem, because we have actually a dilemma. When, for example, there are official statements coming from Kremlin or coming from other political figures, let's say Lavrov, foreign minister, or who else, you have to reproduce it before you can analyze it or to react on it. And in the moment when you reproduce it, you spread it already. So actually, we all have the responsibility to find out what to spread, how to spread, and how to deconstruct it. And of course, there are some political elites, or I wouldn't say elites, but some political parties and representatives who easier spread it because some believe it, some use it for their purposes, some, and some who want to criticize it also have to repeat it. So it's really, really, really easy to spread Russian propaganda. For example, we had in Germany a huge interview with a representative from a Russian embassy, which is actually good, you know, when you have discourse, but there was no counterpart for this Russian representative. He just could tell his story without being criticized and without getting context for the people listening to the interview. And this is, of course, a really, really huge problem. And this problem is everywhere.
From your point of view, is Europe capable to fight with propaganda and with disinformation and with hybrid attacks, especially that is coming from Russia?
Capable. Maybe we are on the way to find a way how to handle it. I would say fight is a word, you know, it comes very fast to having good and bad and wrong and right, and maybe there's the danger to put down discourse in general. But to handle it, I think it is really important to handle it. And Europe started already some measures to prevent Russian propaganda really hard spreading. For example, there are some channels which are forbidden, for example, RT, but also other, for example, state, media, RIA Novosti, for example, but others as well. And this is the first really huge step because RT, for example, had really, really million viewers here in Europe. And it was a very important step to start with things like that. But in the next step, we have to handle it. And handling it is really in the beginning. We have some initiatives where, for example, mostly they try debunking, you know, there is some Russian propaganda and we debunk it and here is it right or this is wrong. But for the other actually problems I was talking about, you know, when it comes to how to have the official statements, how to spread them or not, this is a problem we are just in the beginning to handle. And I think here there really has to grow an understanding, actually, an understanding. And this understanding, there is still a lack of this understanding. And in my opinion, it has to do that many also political figures until now didn't understand actually what is going on within Russia, what is going on within the Kremlin, and who actually is Putin.
It is Europa weak now against the hybrid aggression, and where? If we are weak,
weak, weak in concerning the war against Ukraine.
Yes,
I would put it this way: Europe still tries to find actually his strategy to really get to a position concerning Ukraine. There were so many years they were trusting on the partnership with the US, and now since Trump came into office, it got so hard to really get this bridge, to keep this bridge going on. And Europe actually missed the point where it had to find his own way and his own strategy, where his own position is really stable and where they really are trying to make it, to put it forward. And this process, unfortunately, only now started. And we only can hope that this process is really go fast because we don't know what will the US do next.
And my last question, from your point of view, what will happen with hybrid aggression of Russia against Europe when the holdfast of war in Ukraine will go down? if will be peace in Ukraine, for example, do you think that Russia will stop to aggress with propaganda, with hybrid elements against Europe?
Firstly, I of course hope that there will be some ceasefire and that there will be peace in the near future. I'm not really optimistic about it, but of course I have big hope. And if so, if there is some scenario like you said now, I'm not sure if it will stop, because in my view, we have in Russia some really main changes. We've seen main changes in the last years in the society and in the political establishment. And I think we will have to do with this for many, many, many years.
Mandi, thank you very much for this interview, and we're waiting you to TVR Moldova again and again when we have to speak. I hope we will speak about peace the next time.
I hope so too. Thank you very much.
Doamnelor și domnilor, mulțumim că ați fost alături de noi. Astăzi am discutat cu Mandi Ganske-Zapf, jurnalist și analist politic de la Berlin, despre metodele prin care Federația Rusă încearcă să agreseze în mod hibrid și Germania, o țară membra a Uniunii Europene, o țară membra a NATO. La revedere!